Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marques show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined with Mr. Ray Colon-Lopez. But before we bring up Ray to the stage, I want to thank one of our amazing sponsors. We want to thank TechWise Financial. Mr. Evan Frazier and his awesome brand are all about helping their clients and their client base really be successful with financial planning and creating a financial legacy they can be proud of. We thank Evan Frazier for sponsoring this episode. Now, here he is. Ray, how you doing today, Ray?
I'm doing good, Marcus. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, my friend. Ray, first question. What does the word authentic slash authenticity mean to you?
Authenticity is never really straying away from our origins, recognizing what brought us to where we are today, recognizing the hard work that we had to put in to go ahead and evolve. But most importantly, recognizing that those opportunities that we were able to get along the way should be paid back to somebody else to continue to promote success and prosperity in society.
Ladies and gentlemen, I like what Ray said about it's about giving back and helping others and creating prosperity, fulfillment, joy for other people when you have had fulfillment and joy and prosperity. And I like that because it's all about what I call blazing a trail for individuals to follow. And when people like Ray are out there leading the charge, being very, very just open and authentic and vulnerable, it creates an individual who is helping others that might be scared or might be struggling with some of their issues or their shortcomings. Talk about them more to try to bring them to light to get them solved. So I call that being in the problem solving business. Fantastic.
Mhm.
Ray, tell us more about yourself, your history, your backstory, and what you're doing now.
Well, in short, Marcus, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. Didn't really have much growing up. Moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut when I was about 13 years of age. Ended up going through the majority of high school and my first year of college. Figure out that that wasn't for me. I needed to get the hell away from Bridgeport, Connecticut. So I decided to enlist in the armed forces, specifically the Air Force. Did about 2 years as a logistician, and then I ended up assessing and being selected for the special operations community, specifically pararescue in the United States Air Force. About 90% washout rate. My class started with 113 candidates. Only 11 of us graduated at the end of the 2 year pipeline. And it just gave me a sense of belonging. I did that for about the better part of 24 years until I became a senior enlisted leader in a career culminating as the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, which is the highest enlisted ranking position in the entire United States government. So, very fortunate to have had those opportunities and very fortunate to be able to go ahead and prove my worth to society.
Love that. Love that. So, Ray, let's talk about something. You said that you're, going into what you did, that part of the military, 90% washout rate. 90%. I believe you said you had 113 or candidates, and only
Correct.
11 of you graduated from the program. Again, that is fantastic. It reminds me, I watched the movie G.I. Jane several times with Demi Moore, and how, a lot of those guys who went through that SEAL training were ringing the bell, washing out, weren't able to get it done. And again, that just happens a lot when it comes to people in business and just people in life in general. But I'd like for you to kind of really shed some light on, right, Ray? What was it? What were the attributes that you leaned on to be able to stay within the 10% that actually graduated from your class?
Well, Marcus, there's a lot of connective tissue. You mentioned G.I. Jane as an example, which has been very, very popular in the movie industry. And a lot of people are familiar with the SEAL training, which I also was able to partake on. I had to go through phase 2 of BUTS, basic underwater demolition training, to be able to get dive qualified to go ahead and join the Joint Special Operations arena. But perseverance is one of the key attributes that guides you to ensure that you have the ability to stay mentally focused in order to go ahead and withstand the rigors and the pain that come along with such a pipeline. Now, the physical part is easy. You, as a football player, know that you can put in the sets and reps to condition your body, but it's what's between the ears that really leads you to success. Your mindset, the way that you're willing to go ahead and process information, including the ugliest of moments, to be able to stay in the fight. That is really a decisive factor. And I attribute my success to three characteristics, and that is character, competence, and commitment. Character going back to the origins, being humble enough to realize that, hey, you came from nothing, but here's an opportunity to do something with your life. Competence is nothing more than the willingness to go ahead and be able to embrace the duty, the task in front of you in order to master it. And then your commitment is nothing more than your personal sacrifice, how far you're willing to go to make sure that you achieve those goals. So, those three things, character, competence, and commitments, have been the theme, the consistent theme in my life to be able to achieve the things that I want to achieve.
I like this. Before Ray, we get into what you're doing now, we connected with you through our business development manager consultant, Ms. Robin Lipnack. You're doing some amazing work with the Robert Irvine Foundation. We've had Robert on the show twice. Great guy, very, very big in helping the military, the veterans, giving back, travels all the time, all over the globe, and gives back. But before we get to that, you said there's the three C's: character, competence, commitment. So I'm a big lover of Aristotle. Aristotle was the teacher to and or for Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great became the greatest military leader and tactician of the ancient times. And I really believe a lot of that credit belongs to Aristotle for teaching him how to be such a great leader and great warrior. The number one thing that Aristotle told Alexander the Great must always show at all times, no matter what, is impeccable character. He said if the men felt for any reason that he was doing all this for the love of himself and his own glory, the first sign of trouble in a battle, they'd be gone. Every time Alexander fought Darius III of Persia, he was outnumbered 10 to 1. Every time. But he always relied on his character, and his men were willing to die for him because they believed they were dying for the greater good of Greece, which is why that Alexander defeated Darius III in Persia when he was greatly outnumbered. But my question for you is, right, Ray, how important is character in every aspect of life?
Character is really the equalizer between credibility and humility, right? It keeps you in touch with who you are at the core, not the outside circumstances, but really who you are as a person. It also keeps you focused on the relationships that you need to foster in order to become a better human. Um, the more you associate with those people that are actually helping you be a better person, the more successful you're bound to become, and the higher your credibility is going to be in unknown circles, people that do not know anything about you. And I believe that that's the common tissue that Robert and I share, because that was a match made in heaven. We met over a decade ago, and it was just like, oh, dude, we definitely have to do some damage together. We have to work together. Here in a couple of weeks, we're going to be traveling to Spain and Italy to go ahead and visit some troops and engage some people on quality of life issue for our current armed forces and so on. But there's an old saying that was said to me when I was in high school, and it was my principal. And Father Frank Weasel told me, if you want to fly with the eagles, don't hang around with the turkeys, because you eventually become the company that you keep, which is an adage that I have lived my entire life, my entire adult life based upon. So I'm really quick to cut relationships with people that lack character, competence, and commitment. I'm also very quick to make it known to them that they have some work to do, because I have found candor and honesty to be the best driver of meaningful relationships in life. If people know exactly where you stand on any given issue at any given time, and you're consistent on that approach, you tend to make some meaningful, lasting relationships that are eventually going to help you be better than who you were yesterday.
Love that. Now, competence. I tell people all the time you build trust through competency, reliability, having people's best interests. Competency is the ability to do the job that you say you can do. If you're not competent, I feel you have absolutely no chance to be successful, fulfilled, prosperous in the career path that you have chosen. Can you explain to our audience how competency, or basically the ability to do the job that you say you can do, is so vital? Because if you're trying to tell people you can do something and you know you can't do it, then what happens is your character gets flawed, your competency gets flawed. And from there, it's a very fast paced downward spiral in your trajectory.
In special operations, it's do or die, really. You really don't get many second chances to prove your worth. There's an expectation that once you go through the agoge of the hardship and the training that is required for you to become one of the special operations operators, whether it's a SEAL, special forces, pararescue, combat control, special reconnaissance, and so on. There's an expectation that comes along with that. And you get opportunities on a daily basis to prove yourself, to prove your worth to the team, to be a reliable, dependable, and loyal teammate at any circumstance and on any given situation at any given time. um, Based on that mantra, we train to that standard. Another, adage that I live by is amateurs train until they get it right, professionals train until they cannot get it wrong. And that is really what we did day in and day out. We trained to a specific standard to where the variables never mattered. We knew, and we had confidence in our abilities to do our best to come out on top. Failure was seldom an option. It was accepted if you were giving it your best. But man, those instances were pretty rare just because of the company that you kept. But you're right, that confidence, that expectation, there's no room to fake it. It's not like you can put a 5-minute video on how you're the best at what you do and then have people believe it. When you have human beings, flesh and bone, in front of you, expecting you to perform, engaging your performance, it's a different dynamic. So that is something that you get with special operators.
Fantastic. Again, this is great stuff to help you continue to elevate in your life without a doubt. And then commitment, right? Commitment is the glue that holds everything together. If you're not committed, if you're not going to do the thing that you need to do, if you don't have discipline, that's when I feel you are in a position to potentially not getting where you want to go. So I tell everybody commitment is absolutely vital. Following through, being reliable is absolutely vital. But commitment is the glue that holds everything together. Ray, for people that are listening that are really struggling with commitment or trying to get better at it but don't know where to begin, they know it's important, but they're working towards getting better at it. What would Ray tell them they need to do to really continue to sharpen that commitment type of approach in their life?
I go back to my upbringing in Puerto Rico, not having much, having limited resources, which helped us appreciate all of the things that we had, in fact, in life. Now, we live in a current society to where we have a lot of throwaway options. meaning this phone is 1 year old, the new one just came out, let me go ahead and upgrade, even though there's nothing wrong with that phone. There's also many times where, in marriage, as an example, I've been with my wife now for 26 years. And one of the things that we promised each other was that we were going to work through any given issue because there's no throwing away this course of action, right? So when it comes to commitment, once you're fully committed into something, you cannot waver on that commitment unless it becomes something catastrophic to where you know it's going to go ahead and affect your survivability. Now, um, when it came to my duty as an airman, as a warfighter for the United States of America, there was one mantra in there, the oath to the Constitution of the United States of America. And when I made that promise, when I enlisted in the armed forces, and I uttered the words, which I'm going to tell you what those words are, is that I state your name, to solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the officers appointed over me in accordance with regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. Those words really had true meaning because I knew that that was a promise that was going to be one of the most important promises that I will make anyone in my life. Second one was my promise to my wife in marriage, and so on. And then when I became a special operator, there was yet another mantra that I had to live by, and that was the code of being a pararescueman. And that goes, it is my duty as a pararescueman to save lives and aid the injured. I will be prepared at all times to perform my assigned duties quickly and efficiently, placing these duties before personal desires and comforts. These things we do that others may live. So that wasn't a cute poster on the wall. That wasn't something that you had to memorize just to get by. That became a way of life. And if I needed to use two things that actually ended up shaping my commitment, I will go to the Constitution of the United States, to the oath to the Constitution, and my duty as a pararescueman, because that's really defined everything that I do, even to this day on retirement. I always revert back to those two to find my way in the darkest of places.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, again, character, competence, commitment. If you can bring these three C's into your life, or if they're already there, just amplify them even more. All you're doing is enhancing your chance, enhancing your opportunity to do more, be more, and really expect more of yourself. And at the end of the day, if you want to be fulfilled in your journey, you need to expect more of yourself. People say to me all the time, Marques, how are you able to bounce back from rock bottom and being broke and divorce, all said? And I say one simple word: work. Work.
Yeah.
You can't sit around waiting for things to happen. I was just on a great call right before our interview about really amplifying our inner game community to take that to the next level. And the team that I'm working with has a great strategy on how to do that. And they're going to build out a model, they're going to build out a funnel and help us start to really maximize that to the next level. But again, that's because with my other partner, Victor, we made a commitment to just show up every day, work, and get things done. So if you're listening, you too can have what you want in life, but you can't sit around and you can't wait for people to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. Ray, tell us about the work you're doing with Chef Robert Irvine. I call him Chef Robert Irvine, and his awesome foundation all around the globe.
Well, a lot of it, Marcus, has to do with improving the quality of life, which is basically the human weapon system maintenance for our nation's warriors. So we look for opportunities to go ahead and make them stronger, faster, healthier, to ensure that they can withstand going toe to toe with the enemy. Robert and I also have a deep passion for professional development of people. Robert has published several books. I just got done with mine, which is going to be out here in January of 2026. and it's called Carnivore Leadership: Taking Charge Instead of Taking Shit. It's a cheeky title just because it's a smash mouth approach to go ahead and take control of your life and manage the things that you can manage, and then analyze the things that are beyond your control. And that is something that Robert and I share. We talk about it often, and we're really looking forward to taking that next step on our leadership journey.
Let me ask you this question. So you talk about working with Chef Robert Irvine and his awesome philosophies. You just talked about your awesome book. I want to dig into that a little bit more now. Your title, Carnivore Leadership, right? And that's a big one. And I try to tell our clients, right, Ray, when they are trying to create like a custom signature keynote title for their keynotes, if you want to be a keynote speaker, well, what is it that you believe in, or you attribute, or kind of like what is your life kind of resemble from some sort of either noun, a person, place, animal, thing, whatever. So we came up with how to thrive through the eye of the storm, how to move like a bison, because the bison charges directly into the eye of the storm. One of my other clients, we're talking about how to create the power of the pride. Like lions have the pride and how they work together as a team, how they approach their everything in life from a team perspective. From your awesome book, right, Carnivore Leadership, what are some things people can expect to gain from reading this awesome book that you said has more of a smash mouth approach? As a former football player, I love smash mouth running the football anyway. From a smash mouth perspective.
Well, so I think it's worthy of explaining what the carnivore mindset is. So, in special operations, specifically during my time in SEAL Team 6, we classified people into two buckets: the meat eaters and the grass eaters. The meat eaters were the dependable teammates that will go through any pain, through any hardship to make sure that they achieve goals. The grass eaters were the ones that just waited for things to happen, very passive in nature, not wanting to make waves. And that was really the two camps, right? So we took pride in classifying ourselves as meat eaters, as carnivores. And that resonated with me years ago. We're going back to 1999, when Jim Hinsky, my master chief at the time, ended up bringing the analogy in front of me. And it just resonated so much to where I started taking notes. And I always have this notebooks with me, this Moleskine notebooks. And I'm very introspective. I'm always writing things to where if I find the value on teaching this particular lesson to somebody else, I pen it down because I just don't want to forget it. And I did that over the span of the next 20 years. Then fast forward to 2012, I wrote a leadership paper that was supposed to be localized for the special operations unit that I was leading at the time. And, little did I know that that paper will go viral in the armed forces. And it was called, 20 Silver Bullets of Effective Leadership, Carnivore Leadership. And, if we want to fly with the eagles, don't hang around with the turkeys. That is one of the things that I speak about in there. So it was a collection of 20 quotes that resonated with me. And then my stoic approach to making those quotes into a reality, or a way to act in order to be more effective. Shortly after I retired, a publisher got a hold of the paper and talked to me about making it into a book. And I didn't really have a plan of writing a book, but he's like, hey, if you take those 20 silver bullets to make each silver bullet, which is a quote, and what I thought about the quote, into a chapter, I think you have something going. And that is exactly what we did. So now you have this book coming out, Taking Charge Instead of Taking Shit. And I use that for a couple of reasons. Number one is that I'm sick of people playing the victim when there are plenty of things that they can do to go ahead and get out of situations. You know, I've always been a huge believer of you deserve what you tolerate. And a lot of the things that we tolerate is because we don't have the guts, the courage to go ahead and face them head on. So, what I'm hoping I do with my book is help people be more courageous to go ahead and head up to those bullies, to the people that are actually impeding their progress, and be very honest and upfront with them on what they expect the outcome to be. And it's all about ownership. It's all about becoming a better person, a more courageous person. And it's almost like getting into fights, right? You know, the first fight that you ever get into in school, it hurts. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be assaulted. But the more you do it, the more accustomed you get to it, and you're able to anticipate what's coming to you, and then all of a sudden, the physical pain is not as important as standing up for something that means it's near and dear to you, in order to protect those people around you. And it's that carnivore mentality that actually drives you to be that person, and it has nothing to do with physical violence. It has to do with moral courage to be able to stand up for what is right, for the people around you, and for yourself.
Ray, phenomenal interview. Fantastic. How can people get in touch with you? And then, if you want to pre order the book or support your awesome book project, how can our global audience do just that?
So I am on the Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we have been posting regular updates. The pre-sales are going to go out on 21 October of this year, and the actual book release is going to be 27 January. So we're going to be posting the links on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and many other platforms to make the book available to people. It's also going to be available in Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Hudson, and many other outlets that people typically purchase their books from.
Ladies and gentlemen, please go and support Ray Colon-Lopez. Great man, great this thoughts on life, his foundational principles, character, competence, commitment, discipline, go seeing things through, not throwing the towel in, stop playing the victim. All these are fantastic things you can use in your own life. We want to thank our partner, Mr. Evan Frazier, for supporting and sponsoring this amazing episode. And the authentic tip of this great interview: in life, you're going to have to go through hardship to get to the other side. You heard Ray say, when you get into scuffles or get into fights or battles, it hurts at first. That's normal. But as you get more tough and as you build up your skin, your thick skin, to be able to withstand things of that nature, you can withstand anything. And again, that's attributes, because when your attributes are strong, you can withstand anything in life. We call that resilience over resistance. Again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.